Welcome to the Retirement Planning Podcast with certified financial planners Richard W. Paul and Stephen Paul. Listen to a highlight from our recent radio show as we discuss the worlds of finance and retirement. Now, we were talking about chess and how planning a successful retirement is kind of like playing a game of chess, and so we kind of broke down a little bit the pawn, which, again, the pawn can be a very, very powerful tool. Eventually you make it all the way across the board. You can redeem your queen for it if need be with the pawn. And so, again, it's kind of like those monthly contributions over time, really kind of building up the nest egg. So now let's jump to the knight. And so the knight's kind of a cool, right? Everybody likes the horsey, right? Everybody says, "Oh, I like the horse. The horse is so cool." But he's got that crazy move pattern, right? He can only move in an L shape.
First off, I got to give you credit. You come up with some interesting segments. I mean, retirement chess, like you're retirement a creative chess.
Guy. I appreciate that. I work on this stuff all week,
Yeah. I mean, the knight can only move short distances, right?
Right. He's a little limited.
Yeah, so let's compare this to the more conservative investments in the portfolio.
Okay.
I mean, the piece that you put aside where you're not going to go after market returns, you're not going to try to match the S&P or the Dow. You're just going after a nice, consistent, conservative return, keep up with inflation, beat it by a few percent, but know that that's in place if we were to see some recession years. If the market was to turn on us, it's the piece of the portfolio you can fall back on to generate safe income to move you through those years.
Yep, no question. And that's it really becomes the core of the portfolio, especially as you get closer or into retirement, and because it's all about having that reliable income stream and making sure it's going to be there throughout a 30, maybe even a 40-year retirement for as long as we're living today.
Well, right. Okay. So if the knight is kind of that, that conservative investment thing, that core kind you're talking about, and again, it's kind of limited, but he does have some powerful tools there. So you can be smart with that, and I guess that's kind of predictable, right? I guess that's the predictable side. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So then let's go from the knight to really kind of the most powerful piece in chess, and that's the queen. And obviously,
it's not the king.
No, it's not. Actually, the king he's usually kind of hiding in the corner.
Scared of the queen.
Yeah. Right. We'll get to him in a second. But if you've ever played any chess, you know that you got to be. It's easy to want to zip your queen all around and do things because she is so powerful and she can move so much in any direction and all that kind of stuff. But if you're not careful and you lose her, man, you're really kind of messed up. So what's the queen like in retirement planning?
Well, in retirement planning, then I guess the correlation here is the queen is the high risk money. And the thing is that maybe you fall in love with the ability that the queen has, and or the idea of getting additional growth on your account. But what you're not taking into consideration is, especially as you're getting closer to in retirement, how much risk should you actually have on that portfolio? Should you be taking on a 30 or 40% downside to get that higher number? Probably not. You end up losing 40%, 50%. You have to earn 100 to get your money back. And is that the position you want to be in as you're going into retirement, or as you retire, taking money from your portfolio, and then you put yourself in a position of potentially running your account out of money? And so you just don't want to take a chance on money you can't afford to lose. It's really that simple. This is sacrosanct money. It has to last you for the rest of your life, and the rest of your life could be a very long time. We don't know. We don't know if it's going to be 6 months or 30 or 40 years. We if we knew that, I always kid around about saying you can create that amortization schedule and you write the bad check on the last day, but we don't know.
Yeah, we always laugh about it because we send out a family questionnaire. When someone comes in, they always fill out a questionnaire. And on that questionnaire, we ask, what type of investment return are you looking for? And what type of risk do you want to take? And usually the answer is, and we always laugh about this, well, I want maximum investment return. I want the return of the market, but none of the risk of the market.
Right.
And you have to find that happy medium in retirement, and that's really what we help clients do, is design a plan, build a plan that's still going to go after the growth that they're looking for, but at the same time protect the piece of the portfolio that's going to generate that safe income to pair with their guaranteed income streams and really move them through retirement.
And the key to remember here, Steve, and it's just to kind of feed off of what you were just saying is, do you need stock market returns? Do you need 7, 8, or 9% return to have a successful outcome? And the answer to that is no. And it comes back to, what is inflation? So we look at what inflation is right now, and we said in the opening segment, potentially less than 2. And there's some segments where it is higher, but just going with the government reported inflation rate. So what is the return then you need? What do you need on your portfolio? And my feeling is, as long as you're earning something over the inflation rate, 3 or 4%, you could have a successful outcome. It's not that you can't earn more than that. People think, well, I want to earn more than that. That's fine. But 3 or 4% is definitely going to get the job done. And if we can earn 5 or 6, hey, that's terrific. But as soon as you start reaching for much more north of 5%, by default, you are bringing unnecessary risk into the portfolio that could put you in jeopardy of losing 30 or 40% or more. I mean, remember when the market went down in 08. If you put the bookends of 07, the end of 07, beginning of 09 on, we're talking over a 50% loss. And those are just unacceptable losses to take on when you're going into or are in retirement.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so some good thoughts to think about there when we're talking about our conversation today. Looking at retirement kind of like pieces on the chessboard. That queen, high risk, but sometimes you can also lose that. So you got to be careful with the queen. All right. So the king, Rich, you brought him up. In the game of chess, obviously the whole point is to use all these pieces to protect the king. Pretty sure this is going to be pretty easy to figure out what the analogy is for the retirement side. But basically, you don't protect the king, you're done, right? So,
yeah, and the king in retirement is income streams.
Streams, okay.
Want this portion of the portfolio to be boring. I don't want it to be exciting. I don't want to go after 25, 30% returns in this piece of the portfolio. When you think king of retirement, think your income streams. Pensions, annuities, Social Security, rental income, if you have a strong rental property, and then interest from the portfolio. I don't want to go after a ton of growth here. I don't want to bring a ton of risk into this piece of the portfolio. I want to make sure that I'm generating safe income for my clients on a month-to-month basis, year-to-year basis to move them through retirement. There should be no surprises here. So it's not the exciting piece of the portfolio. It's not the piece where you're going after double-digit returns. It's the safe piece. We're generating safe income to move you through retirement.
So, Steve, are you telling me that as you're entering retirement, as you're getting older, you should tone down the risk a little bit? So I can equate that to my trip. It's like, so I had a choice. Do you want the extreme ride? And I said, well, the last time I went river rafting, whitewater rafting, we had to drag the raft. In several spots, I said, no, give me the full enchilada. And so I had no idea what Class 5 rapids look like. Well, I got to experience that when that raft literally
they're
launched.
No joke. Yeah,
it flew up in the air, and even the guide got dumped. The whole thing turned upside down, and thank God for a life jacket. I eventually popped up underneath the raft and drank a little bit of water and figured my way out and started swimming. But again, got injured. So here's the thing. You want to be able to protect that money going through retirement. Why put your money at risk if it's not necessary? You want predictable, reliable income coming in, and that is, cash flow is king here.
There you go.
As you're going through retirement. And so, as you said, Steve, whether it's pensions, annuities, rental income, Social Security, those are things that aren't going to be susceptible, to market risk, so market volatility, no matter what happens, that cash flow is going to be unimpeded. We don't want to be worried about bond defaults or we talked about interest rate cuts. What about interest rate increases? That's where we were going, and I think we're going to come back to those increases. And when they do, the bonds are going to get crushed in this case over time. So that's going to be a very tricky environment to navigate as well. So our job is really all about putting you in a position to protect that income, to make sure that income is coming in reliably, to at least we know that the income that's paying your essential expenses, the things that have to be paid, that's coming in without fear of market loss, market volatility, bond defaults, interest rate increases, or anything that can infect the principal of that money.
Well, this has been the Retirement Planning Podcast with certified financial planners Richard W. Paul and Steve Paul of R.W. Paul and Associates. Make sure that you reach out to them at 248-305-9911. That's 248-305-9911. This has been the Retirement Planning Podcast.
All matters discussed during the show are for informational purposes only and shall in no way be construed as a solicitation to sell securities or investment advisory services to residents of any state other than Michigan. Topics should be discussed with your individual advisor prior to implementation. Investment advisory services offered through Richard W. Paul & Associates, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Insurance services offered through Midwest Financial Consultants, Inc.